What up, player profiler faithful? It's your boy Matty Kiwoom. Welcome to the latest episode of the Game Plan. First and foremost, subscribe to the Player Profiler YouTube channel. And while you're there, please take a minute and absolutely smash that like button. And if you're feeling good, go ahead and leave a comment on this very video. Help your boy out with this YT algo. Get this thing around town because today we have an absolute grade A certified banger of an episode ready for each and every one of you listeners. We're talking best ball, and more importantly, who should we fade in best ball contests? So, gang, get out your pens and your pads, and let's start game planning to dominate some best ball contests. Planners, I am joined today by one of the new faces here at the Player Profiler network of shows. You've seen him on Mock Draft Live. You've seen him crush it on Trade Gods. You've seen his videos. You saw him participate in not only the draft kit, but Dynasty Week, baby. I'm talking about Tyler Football. What's going on, T?
Sorry, I was trying to flex a little bit. What's going on? What are we doing? It was too zoomed in. It was too zoomed in. It was fine.
Let's take a second. Let's take it. Okay. I like it. I love the energy, T. Well, welcome to the game plan. I'm very, very excited to have you here. You know, you guys have run a bunch of these UD underdog contests on Mock Draft Live. So we're very, very excited to get all the listeners just a little bit more acclimated, give them a little bit more tools in their belt to dominate, maybe bring home some cash when they, decide to play a little bit underdog or where have you.
Yeah, I'm really in these underdog streets. I have been drafting since it's got to be since February when it was the first pre-draft thing that dropped. I don't remember when exactly that was, but I remember just ripping drafts left and right, and I'm addicted. I can't help myself. I love underdog and everything that they like the prize structure, the payout, and just you can just get in drafts like that. You don't have to wait for 10 minutes. They fill in 45 seconds, and it sounds like I'm doing an ad read, but I'm really not. I just genuinely like under, because even when you play in home leagues, it's the great mock draft because kind of where all the money is, because they're all money leagues, so you kind of know where the money is, and it just makes drafting on an ESPN platform or something like that so much better and beneficial for your home leagues or the leagues you're in, which is for redraft with friends.
Last week, I had JD and Theo on the show, and they were talking about high-stakes leagues. But then they also made sure to let everyone know that when you're trying to practice, underdog best ball drafts is the gymnasium for us fantasy gamers. That's where we can really get stronger, cut our teeth, get more familiar with ADPs, draft patterns, things of that nature. Because like you said, these are all people putting money in, so they are going to take them seriously. So this is where you can kind of get a little bit of an understanding on the patterns of which players are coming off the board, which will only help in your high-stakes leagues, your home leagues, all those big-time drafts. And I know you are definitely into it because right before we hit the record button, we were looking about maybe doing a draft together, and then you said you had already maxed out the Chihuahua Superflex contest.
Yeah, I thought that was going to fill a lot faster because the regular Chihuahua filled in 3 days. So I was like, okay, but then I personally like the Superflex ones more than just the regular Best Ball Mania or the Puppy or something like that. Only because I feel like there's a lot of strategy and there's a lot of research out there on the Best Ball Mania or these single quarterback formats. There's not too many really meta ways to draft in Superflex. It's kind of uncharted waters a little bit. So you can kind of take some risk and things that you just personally think well, and maybe won't get destroyed on Twitter if you post a team, because there's really we don't have any data to really see which strategy works and which one doesn't.
And when you get into these super flexes, it's there's so many quarterbacks come off the board first. I think it kind of handcuffs that early strategy. So, that does make a whole lot of sense. We're talking best ball today. We're talking best ball fades today. But before we do, I always like to surprise my guests with 2 questions, Tyler. They were not on the show sheet, so this is straight off the cuff. Now, I know we're talking best ball, but I want to know about how you are as a fantasy manager. So how long have you been playing fantasy football? And then describe your fantasy management style.
Yeah, so I started playing fantasy football, I think, when I was in middle school. I think it was 2011. The only reason I remember that was because I think it was Julio Jones' rookie year, and he got drafted in 2011. I'm a huge Falcons fan, so I had him on my team. I think my first team name was over Dwayne Bowe, if I do recall.
Damn, come with the heat, the dad joke.
Yeah, exactly. It was more like in middle school. I thought that was the sickest name. I was like, oh, I just have the greatest like off the top ad lib ever. So over Dwayne Bowe is great. I've been playing kind of with the same guys for like literally since 2011. Like I'm still in a home league that I've been in for literally forever. So that's kind of when I started my fantasy management style. I would say when I draft teams, I just let the draft come to me. So like a perfect example of this was last year in my home league. It's a lot of guys like they only play fantasy football when like it's like when we're drafting. They don't look at anything. They're kind of just like we have a couple like diehard guys in there, but the most of the guys it's just like okay, let's pull up and draft. Well, they've been doing the same strategy for like 7 years. They just want as many running backs as they can. So they all draft running backs. And I remember I think I took like Justin Jefferson round 1 because I was like I'm not going to give in to big RB in this draft room. I'm not going to give it. So I drafted 4 receivers first. My running back depth was terrible at the time. So I remember like Jefferson, Waddle, Lamb, and T. Higgins were my first 4 picks. And then I stole Rhamondre in like the mid rounds. And then I didn't win the league. I think I got 3rd, but it's whatever. It was still a good team. It was like,
yeah. But you were in the dance, and at the end of the day, you can only do so much to get you to the dance, and then you gotta get lucky in that 2 or 3 weeks to get that championship. What's the name of your home league? Does it have the same name?
Yeah, it's called So I went to it's called what our high school. It's mostly high school friends, so it's like Wyzetta Trojans. So it's our league name is just Trojans Only.
Trojans Only. Okay.
It's like Trojans Only, and then it's like year 8. So we just put year 8 in parentheses right behind it.
And of course, when you came up with the name, you probably snickered because of the condom brand show.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very low hanging fruit joke among these streets.
Love it. Yeah, my long-standing home league is the Golden Pony Fantasy Football Experience. We've been around, doing it for 12 years, whatever. It's a lot of my buddies from high school. We didn't do it in high school. We did it when we were all older. But it's a ton of fun. And that's actually a common thread when I talk to the people on the show. It's just you got to be flexible. But a lot of the guys that I have on, they're pedal to the metal. They're win now managers. Are you more of a win now or productive struggle type?
I'm actually in Dynasty leagues. I haven't I've only been playing Dynasty for I think this is like my 3rd year. Like really not that long because I just didn't really have anyone to play with at first because like I said, my friends are kind of casual.
Relatively new. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is kind of relatively new. So but I've blown up teams and I'll just get I don't know if this happens to you, but sometimes when you make one trade, you just want to make another. And another, and then it's a slippery slope from there. Like I'm in this one league.
You get trade addicted.
I get so addicted. I'm like, oh my god. I just become like a value hound. I'm like, oh, if I could just get him to throw in this extra 304, this is gonna be the best trade I've ever made in my life. But I had a team. I completely destroyed it. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of messed up probably the next 4 years of that team. I'm like, it's terrible now. I just got in this one day. I made 6 trades. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna accumulate every single 2023 rookie pick that I can, and this was in February before we even knew anything. And I'm like, I'm just gonna accumulate every pick, and not gonna lie, my team's not that good. So
you might be time to start getting them 24 first. Also,
yeah, we got a couple lined up, but my build I don't have any cornerstones. I think my 3 best cornerstones right now is Jahan Dotson, Quentin Johnston, and Anthony Richardson in a 1 QB league.
Well, there's some work to do, but maybe you are secretly a fantasy manager that needs to put the pedal in the middle, try to win now. You kind of dipped your toes in that rebuild waters, and that doesn't sound like it's for you, my man.
Yeah, it's definitely. Well, I tried to go. I tried to go win now, the previous year, because I don't know if you play in these leagues where we do. If you win it 2 times in a row, then half the money goes to the winner that year, and then half the money goes in a different pot. So then it just keeps accumulating, and whoever wins it 2 years in a row gets the mega pot.
Of, mega pot. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's what we've been doing. No one's won it yet.
Really?
No one's won it yet. So yeah, we've only, like I said, only been 3 years. So
well, get that. So team
I won. So I had one. Yeah, I had won the year before, so I was like, okay, let's run it back. And then injuries happened. I was like, okay, let's sell the roster because like outside, I have such old. I had all my guys were old, so I was like,
sell the
okay,
farm.
I have to sell the farm. It was, okay. Here, you want to hear the worst trade I've ever made in the Dynasty League, real quick?
I mean, yeah, because we're talking best ball today. So,
okay, yeah.
If the dynasty prowess isn't right, the listeners can be rest assured that we are going to give you top-notch best ball advice. But yes, I do want to hear
real quick. First year I ever played Dynasty, I needed Ezekiel Elliott to win the championship. I gave up 3 firsts for Ezekiel Elliott. I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never watched. I didn't know how Dynasty worked. I was like, oh, I'll win now. And I did win. So it was like the Rams, like F them picks.
Hell
exactly.
Yeah.
F them picks. But that was the worst trade I ever made. And I'm paying for it because I finished dead last or second to last this season. So the guy has my pick. He had my pick this year and he had my pick next year too. So it's tough. We'll leave it at that. Let's get into best ball.
Let's get into some best ball. But before we do, let's hear from the Podfather as he talks about Underdog Fantasy.
Let's take a moment to talk about Underdog Fantasy. Now, many of you have already signed up. Thousands have signed up from Player Profiler already over the years. Underdog has supported us since 2020. Much of what you see on Player Profiler is because of Underdog, because of their support. Get the Underdog app, plug in that promo code Underworld. I used to play Underdog just for the best ball drafts. I mean, the best ball drafts are amazing. These draft rooms fill so quickly, and you can win life-changing money. You want to take advantage of all the sleepers we talk about on this show? Well, what better place than in an Underdog draft room to do that? And I recommend taking your Underdog play to the next level by diving into their NFL pick'ems. It's important to correlate those NFL pick'ems. You can pick both the quarterbacks and the wide receivers to exceed expectations. Correlate them, and you can 5x your payout. Bada bing, bada boom. Underdog Fantasy, the promo code is Underworld. For an instant deposit match up to $100, Underdog is the truest friend of the Underworld.
And after you get some of this top-notch advice from Tyler Football, you're going to want to play a little bit of those Underdog contests. So make sure you get that discount and use the promo code Underworld. Tyler, let's get into some fantasy fades, some best ball fades. It looks like we both got a couple of haircuts, so we're not just talking about the fades on our heads. We're talking about Dynasty. We're talking about not Dynasty, but best ball fades, baby. Let's go. One time for the one time. A couple of 1-2 cutie pies on today.
Yeah, for real.
Question I have for you. When you're thinking fades, is it an ADP thing or is it a talent thing? Or can it be both?
It's kind of both. Like obviously, I think there's some players that everyone they kind of like the player, but like their price is ridiculously high. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I think of it like an example of somebody I do like is kind of like Rhamondre Stevenson, but kind of the other guys going around him like Jacobs and like Saquon Barkley, kind of like that tier of running backs. I like those guys more over Rhamondre, so I just find myself never drafting Rhamondre, even though I don't really have a problem with him. Like I think there's some concerns, but I just like the other guys better. So I think that's kind of like a case of an ADP fade. But then there's guys like Courtland Sutton, who I just will never draft because I just don't think he's good at football. I don't care if he falls like 25 picks past ADP. I don't think I'll ever draft Courtland Sutton unless if I have Russell Wilson. If I have Russell Wilson as a stack opportunity, then I will draft Courtland Sutton if he falls way past. But I'm just off Courtland Sutton. I don't like him.
Okay, that's interesting. So let's talk about that a little bit because has he let you down in the past? Do you think he's just kind of dust, or do you think he's going to get faded away now that they have Marvin Mims and Tim Patrick back?
I just don't think he's ever done anything good. Other than I think he had that one really nice season right before he tore his ACL, which was I think 2 or 3 years ago, and just after that, he hasn't really done anything. He comes back post ACL, okay, we'll give him a break. And I think this year was last season was his second year removed from the ACL. I know Denver was a dumpster fire, but he still didn't do anything. Even Jerry Jeudy flashed a little bit last season. We never saw that from Courtland Sutton. And it's just I don't think he just can't separate. I don't think it's kind of he's not really the player that I think meshes well with Russell Wilson because he's not really a deep threat. He's not really a route runner. He's just kind of a big body, but he doesn't have this calling card or anything that I think of. So
yeah, I guess that's probably true. He flashes because he can make those flashy catches. But when you do look at his profile, you're right. He's 50th in yards per out run. His target separation is outside of the top 60. His production premium's outside of the top 80. And that's coming off of, a season where he had the 11th most deep targets. He did have 800 receiving yards, so it wasn't a complete dud of a season. It's not like he didn't get a whole lot of looks. He was top 30. He was top 27th in targets. So, all right. So that's a situation where the ADP doesn't really matter. It's not really your concern here. It's the straight talent of a guy like Courtland Sutton. But you also mentioned Rhamondre Stevenson. When you look at Rhamondre Stevenson, I mean, in underdog ranks, he's up there. We're talking about a player that you got to take within your first 15, 20 picks. So in that range, are you taking, these are a couple of guys in the Rhamondre Stevenson range. So I want to give people an example of how to fade or what to look for when you or, the people playing want to fade that. Yes, you can fade talent. If you don't believe in the guy's talent, don't worry about it and don't really monitor the ADP because it's going to have to really plummet for you to get interested. But also where they're going and who they're going around. Rhamondre, like I said, top 20 pick. We have him at 19 in our ranks for underdog best ball drafts. Are you taking Rhamondre or Derrick Henry?
Derrick Henry. That'd be close. Especially in an underdog format where it's 0.5 PPR, definitely Derrick Henry.
Are you taking Rhamondre or Tony Pollard?
Pollard. I think, is there any company that's more in on Tony Pollard?
Player Profiler, Tony Pollard, one in the same. We all love him. We've all been in love with him. So it makes sense. Okay, so Rhamondre is a fade because of where he's going around and the players that he's going around. You just tend to take other paths when he's there. And Courtland Sutton is an example of fade no matter what. ADP don't matter. I don't like the talent. I don't believe he can really do anything big. I got these kind of a two-parter question next that I want to ask you because, some people tend to gravitate towards the shiny new toys and the rookies, and some people love picking up, old players that they consider value. So on one hand, we have rookies, and on the other hand, we have these past the age apex kind of older players that can present value. But do you tend to fade those rookies, or do you tend to fade the players that are past the age apex?
I absolutely love rookies in best ball because you're just shooting for upside and you can't get any better discounts like on a group of players than you can on rookies. And you got guys every single year, like Garrett Wilson last season was a smash hit. Jamar Chase the season before that probably won you any league you were in Jamar Chase. And it's just, you can get such good value with rookies. It doesn't matter if it's a receiver, a running back, even quarterback. Sometimes those guys can hit. Like, I love drafting rookies in the whole pre-draft stuff. I was like, just give me every share of any rookie I can get because I might take a hit somewhere. Like, I think I had a good amount of Kayshon Boutte, but like this was even before the combine.
Right. This is at the
This is the very beginning. So like, yeah, you might take a hit, but then like Kendre Miller was like one of like the last rookie running backs coming off the board. And that was just a guy whose college tape I absolutely love. So I drafted a ton of them. But then you get good values there. So I mean, it doesn't really matter. I kind of just look for value. I recognize the fact that I'm not going to get every single guy pick right, especially when you're drafting every single rookie. You're not going to get everyone right because you're bound to get some wrong. But I love drafting rookies. And as far as like the age apex guys, I don't really mind it. Like a guy like Eckler is a guy that people have tried to fade for the past couple of years. Derrick Henry is a guy people have tried to fade for like the past 4 seasons because like they think he has to regress, but they never do. So I mean, as long as the price is good and like you see like you've seen these guys produce in the past, then I'm all for it. Maybe like have more. Like Mike Evans is a guy I don't really like this year. It's partly due to the age, but mostly due to the offense. But yeah, I don't really have a problem with either. I think it just depends what the price is. It always comes down to price for me. I'm a big ADP price guy. So
you're an ADP snob, if you will.
Yeah, a little bit
snooty, very snooty.
I'm a value hound.
Okay, value. I like that. And yes, when it comes to these one-off league formats, these non-dynasty seasonal best balls, rookies do tend to get faded in terms of the consensus ADPs because people don't know what they're going to bring to the table. So you can get some nice value. Like I'm looking here, you're getting a guy like Jaden Reed, Quentin Johnston. You can get these guys kind of late outside of the top 100 some of the times, or just right inside that top 100. So yeah, I mean, if you're willing to take a risk on someone who hasn't hit the NFL gridiron yet, that you could see some serious upside. Because if you were to draft, a couple of the rookies last year, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, even though they didn't pop on a full season basis, they did have over 1,000 yards and they had massive spike weeks and they came at a little bit of value at the time. So I'm with you there on the rookies. I always tend to have a lot of those blank silhouettes on my best ball teams, those rookies without pictures. And, you know, I've talked to some smart people about best ball, and they tend to fade rookies because they like to see, you know, the data at hand. They want to kind of sink their teeth into that. But I'm with you, though. There's something about the rookies and the shiny new toy that me personally I'm trying to get on my teams. But I'm also trying to get better at best ball. I have yet to truly really get comfortable in the format. I've done it a bunch over the last couple of years, but that's it. I'm pretty new to the game. So I'm excited to have you on to talk me through fading some players. And now we've talked about Rhamondre Stevenson. That's an early round fade. Give me a couple other players that you're saying don't want these guys early in best ball formats.
Early, yeah, guys I definitely don't want. Like, dudes, I actually, when you wrote on the show sheet, I just looked through like my exposures, like which guys don't I have? And the guys, and it's fell pretty in line with what I thought it was. Both of the Steelers wide receivers, not touching them. Especially Deontay Johnson.
Pickens or Deontay. You don't like Deontay.
I don't like Deontay. I love
Deontay this year.
I get that there's targets, but that's all there is. That I was diving into some like his stats. He was like 5th in red zone targets, I think, last season, and he had 0 touchdowns. I thought that was right.
That doesn't seem like an anomaly to you.
I didn't think it was alarming. I just thought it was weird.
It is weird.
And all of his like efficiency stats, like yards per route run, yards per catch, like all that stuff was not good at all. So I just don't like Deontay. Like there's a lot of guys I think that have a lot higher upside than him, which is part of the reason I think that I tend to go with those guys. I just look for upside. I don't care. Like Deontay's he's probably gonna get a lot of targets and a lot of catches, but he's probably not gonna have like an 8 touchdown season, especially when he didn't have like any touchdowns last season. So and then Pickens, like he's kind of in the same tier as Deontay. And like, yeah, he's a rookie, and like, yeah, he blocks people really cool. Like he sends them in the dirt, but
you don't get points for that, right?
Yeah, you don't get points for pancakes for receivers. So that should, now that I said that, they should do like O-line fantasy football for like pancakes. You get like 5 points for a pancake. They have
Can you imagine?
Every position pretty much has like there's a like deep I don't even play the deep. What's the DP?
IDPs.
IDPs. Yes, I don't even play, so I don't know. But IDPs, like they have those. Let's get some O linemen on underdog. Like who says no? I would draft Chris Lindstrom. I would definitely draft Chris Lindstrom.
You heard it here, folks. We are going to have an offensive line draft one year with pancakes and what other stats could you potentially
negative points for sacks allowed?
Okay.
So yeah, so that, or maybe like
what, I mean, how many pancakes does a guy get in a given game? Can it was 3, 2? Is that a lot?
I don't even know if it's like 1, to be honest. So maybe it's like,
because it'd have to be a massive.
What about if it's like points per like rushing yard, like a certain amount of like kind of like, you know what I mean, something like that, or yeah, I don't know. Maybe we have to probably do a deep dive on that. You know,
we may have to cut this part of the show so we keep it under wraps until we can develop our own offensive line, motivate a game, and then once you crack that code, there's already the IDP equation that's a real thing. Obviously, the offensive skill positions is a real thing. That's what we all play. It's what our favorite thing is. It's fantasy football. Then you get the offensive lineman involved, Tyler football. Now you have a full GM type of game here.
Imagine
actually playing this.
Imagine you're in a rookie draft and like 2 years ago, and Rashawn Slater goes 101. Like, how fun would that be?
I don't know.
I don't want Jamar Chase. I want Rashawn Slater. He's going to give me 20 points a game.
I don't know if I want to live in a universe where I'm going to take a first-round offensive tackle over a guy like Jamar Chase in a rookie draft.
Penei Sewell, 102.
Ooh, Penei Sewell would have been a steal at the 102. Penei Sewell's an absolute freight train. So if you're out on Pickens and you're out on Deontay, are you out on Kenny Pickett?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of Pickett either.
You're not okay.
I'm not I don't really like. I think I have like one Steelers fan in my life, but every time I like go on Twitter and I see a Steelers like fan page that pops up, it's all about Matt Canada. Matt Canada this, Matt Canada that, Matt Canada sucks. And then I'm like, I get the Twitter notification in the offseason, the Steelers are retaining Matt Canada. So I don't know, like they haven't been good with Matt Canada, and I don't like, have they made any drastic changes this season? I mean, I know they drafted an offensive lineman, but
they did. Yes, they took a lineman.
You got Allen Robinson now. Is he the code that's going to unlock Kenny Pickett and the Steelers offense?
I don't know. Can he make Kenny Pickett's hands bigger? I think that's tends to be the issue because Kenny Pickett has, those small hands, a stat that is widely insane to think about, but it is undefeated in terms of who has success at the NFL level.
Yeah.
Any other targets early on? We're talking about, first 3 rounds in most of these best ball, and you can kind of be specific to how you want to break it down. Whether it be 1 QB, the Chihuahua, we talked about that. That's a super flex contest. So are there any of these guys that you're fading in the first 3 rounds that you just don't want a part of unless they start falling tremendously?
There's especially so 1 QB and especially Superflex formats. Dak Prescott's a guy that I'm really not taking a lot of. I don't know why. It's because it just feels like there's other guys around him. Like Anthony Richards is going right next to him. He's like the sexiest best ball pick right now. It's like, oh, I drafted Anthony Richardson as my QB2, It's like he's just got all his rushing upside. Then you start thinking about the comparisons between the Shane Steichen offense and bringing it over to Indianapolis, what he did with Jalen Hurts, and it's like your mind starts racing about all these rushing stats that you could possibly get. And I don't know, it's just Dak he's not a sexy pick. He's just not a sexy pick in fantasy football because he's just Dak. I don't know what it is. Like, he doesn't run. He throws a lot of interceptions, which doesn't really matter for fantasy football, but it's just something that like imprints on your brain. It's like, I just feel gross clicking this Dak Prescott button when I can either take a Kirk Cousins, who like I know is probably going to lead the league in pass attempts this year because that's just what they're going to do. And yeah, and then there's otherwise I'll just be like, oh, I'll just wait and maybe I'll take I don't know, because in Superflex you have to take Dak at like the end of the first. I'd much rather draft Jamar Chase than Dak Prescott in a Superflex draft at like pick 12 because like you're not going to beat the people who drafted like Jalen Hurts or Pat Mahomes with Dak Prescott. You're just not going to do it. So you have to try and beat them in a different category, which is why I like double tap receivers like Jamar Chase and Tyler Knaeble if they're both there. So Dak Prescott, just not a guy. I'm not, like I said, not really don't have too much animosity towards. I just don't click the button, and it's just one of those things.
Yeah, he is in that scenario. So on ADP, in terms of ADP on Underdog right now, he's going off the board around pick 96, QB 11 off the board. If you want Richardson, you do have to take him a tad earlier, about 5 picks earlier. But again, that's that range. And then here are some quarterbacks that are going right off the board after Prescott: Tua, Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, and Aaron Rodgers. So it does feel like a grouping there that you're just kind of like, stacking's a big deal, obviously, in best ball. It's something that we love doing. It's a great correlation to kind of attack. So if you the times where I've taken more Dak Prescott has been the drafts where I come away with CeeDee Lamb early on.
Yeah, it's CeeDee Lamb. If you get CeeDee Lamb, you have to draft Dak Prescott, and that's like the only time I'm never like drafting Dak unstacked. I'm not really drafting a lot of quarterbacks unstacked. The only ones you can kind of get away with there are like the ones who have rushing upside. So like you can take Jalen Hurts unstacked or Anthony Richardson unstacked, but if they don't have rushing upside and they can't score points kind of by themselves, then it's really hard to kind of take like a Dak or an Aaron Rodgers or somebody of that caliber unstacked, because if they score a lot of points, it's going to be because Garrett Wilson had a 20-point week, or because maybe Tyler Conklin caught 2 touchdowns or something like that.
Right, I see what you're saying. So Dak Prescott, interesting. Now, does the Mike McCarthy play calling thing scare you?
Oh, it definitely scares me. I like Kellen Moore. Like they were electric on offense the past 2 seasons. It seemed like, at least, and it makes me love Justin Herbert even that much more, because I love Justin Herbert. I think he's like one of the biggest steals in fantasy drafts right now, in my opinion, because just last season it was Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Herbert, like the first 3 quarterbacks off the board. Now, because he has like an injury-riddled season to not only himself, but Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, even his left tackle was injured too. Like, everything went wrong for him last year, and he still finished like okay. Now he's going to be coming back with all these weapons around him. He even drafted another first-round receiver. He's got just the O-line should be healthy. Kellen Moore seems like a great play caller, which I don't know if they had before. It felt like a lot of checkdowns, a lot of.
And one thing I do like about Herbert is there's going to be a lot of touchdown regression, in my opinion, and there's also going to be a lot of rushing stats that come his way. Someone who's ran for over 300 yards in the NFL before, only ran for 147 last year. 0 rushing touchdowns for Herbert, where he had 8 over his first 2 seasons. So I think there's going to be a lot of touchdowns coming his way in a positive, regression manner, which I'm all for with a kid that talented. Now you got Kellen Moore, Quentin Johnson. He's got a great number of pass catchers. He's going to be healthy. Okay, so I love Herbert. We all both love some Justin Herbert. And you're fading Dak Prescott. I'm very interested. That's very interesting to me. But yeah, I like your analysis, and I think it's important that people checking this out, it's not always about the player. If you believe that there's outcomes, there are some outs that someone can produce. If the range in which he's going is not your liking, or the players around him, you'd rather just have those players. Sure, you could take them to help your diversity in your portfolio for best ball drafts. But yeah, if you want to go a different route, it's okay. That's why we're talking about fades here. Now, let's talk about some of these mid-round guys. Something round 6, 7, stuff like that, round 6 to 10. Are there any players in that range that you're like, no, thank you, I don't want them, I don't think they're good, or I still think this is still too early for a player like this?
Yeah, J.K. Dobbins right off the bat. I don't know what it is. Something, I think I just have this. I have this image stuck in my mind from last season where J.K. Dobbins is literally limping while he's running. It looks like he's a hitch. Kind of, you might have ever seen Real Steel, the boxing robot movie. Where he's like, he's got a hitch.
What's his name?
Wolverine?
Hugh Jackman.
He's like, shit, he looks like he got a hitch in his hip or something like that, or his knee, and he's just running like this. I'm like, I don't know what to do with that. And yeah, I know he's probably going to be more healthy this season, but I don't think this is going to be the Ravens offense that leads the league in rushing every single year. That it's a new offensive coordinator. Not to say they're going to totally abandon the run and become this team that throws the ball maybe 600 times in a year, but I think they're going to be a lot more balanced than they have been in the past. And J.K. Dobbins really was thriving in the role. Greg Roman's gone, Monken's in, and I think there's going to be some change a little bit, and maybe he makes up for it with just the offense being a lot better than maybe it has been in years past. I think this is the most excited people have been about the Ravens offense in quite some time. So maybe he proves me wrong, but it just, I love Miles Sanders, and they are right next to each other in ADP. And I click Miles Sanders every single time just because I think he has a lot more receiving upside than Dobbins has. And I kind of like the philosophy. I love drafting running backs in terrible offenses because I think they catch a lot more passes. A very bad offense that a running back plays really well. And last year was Rhamondre Stevenson, because Mac Jones was checking it down to him every single time. Because I don't think I've ever seen a defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia, go from offensive coordinator. I don't know what that's about. How do you go from defensive coordinator to offensive coordinator in 2 years? I don't understand.
He went from defensive coordinator, head coach, which he failed at, then to a consultant role, something, to an offensive coordinator where he just ran checkdowns all day long. I mean, the amount of checkdowns it was so prevalent in that offense. I mean, if you remember, I can't remember what game it was where Max said, "I'm done with the fucking short game," or "I'm done checking it down with this bullet." Yeah. He was pissed because obviously having a guy like Matt Patricia is not going to help your offense as a whole. And I think that's pretty safe to say. Is there any other guys that you're fading in terms of, let's just call it the first 10 rounds, whether it be earlier in that portion or back towards round 10? So give me some more fades, players specifically that you don't want, whether it be because of ADP or talent in general.
I'll give you one that's ADP and talent. Michael Thomas. I'm out.
Double.
We're not falling for this trick again. He might be him and Cortland Sutton are the two that where it's talent and ADP. I'm done. But Michael Thomas, how often are we going to fall for this trick? Every single year, it's, he had one wide receiver one season when Drew Brees was throwing him 3-yard slants every single play. Congratulations. But what I know, he had one game when he played one game last season, he got 2 touchdowns. Yep. People love to remember that. But I think Sam. I remember there's 2 years in a row Sammy Watkins would go off in week 1.
Oh yeah, Sammy Watkins week was week 1 for the Chiefs a couple years ago. 40 points, 30 points, wherever it was.
I think he had one on the Ravens too, where he just went off in week 1. So it's we're not gonna fall for this trick. I don't like Michael Thomas. I remember we were talking about it on a mock draft live on Monday, but I love these tweets where it's like they just make the most irrelevant news like it's like an actual report and it's a big deal. And I remember there's one in the off season where it's like Michael Thomas seen jogging at the Saints facility. That's great.
Slant boys jogging
2 rounds above ADP now. Like, what are we doing? I don't understand. So, and there's another one. Yeah, there's another one. It's like he's deadlifting and he's like sick.
I saw that. Cool. That was recent. That was like a couple days ago.
What am I supposed to do with this information? Yeah, that was recent.
Well, he's deadlifting, man.
Yeah, his deadlift numbers are probably better than mine, but it's just like, you know, he's like an NFL athlete. I hope he like is deadlifting.
Can you deadlift a lot?
Honestly, I don't really deadlift. I have a bad back already. I always okay. My combine bench numbers, like I could probably get like 5 right now.
5, okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I could probably do 5 combine bench, 225. If I took like a really big scoop of pre-workout, I could probably get 5.
You see talent football. Me and my buddies, we used to have a good group of guys that used to go to the gym in the mornings that's since kind of disbanded. But when it was chest day, sometimes one of us would walk in and be like, "We're going to the combine, boys." And I was like, "All right, I guess we're throwing 225. We're going to see how much we can get." I mean, we're kind of old, so we were all getting, you know, for anywhere from 5. You know, one of my buddies is a former offensive lineman. He's a bigger guy. He can get, you know, closer to 10, double digits sometimes. So we walk in all like, "Go to the combine, put them plates on, baby."
Yeah, I coach.
Just gotta do it.
I coach high school football, dude. I don't know if you seen the David Goggins clip where it's like, who's gonna carry the boats? They don't know me,
David
son.
Goggins.
They don't know me, son. Who's gonna carry the boats?
If you want me to run through a wall, put in some David Goggins right now.
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
I will get fired up. But we are both not well. I don't know if we both are. I'm a little bit in on something. You're not, but I'm not in on Michael Thomas either. You're telling me I have to use a top 100 pick to get Michael Thomas? No, thank you. Give me Elijah Moore. Give me Juju Smith-Schuster. Give me I'll take even Tyler Boyd. I'll take those spike weeks in that offense over Michael Thomas and what could be an absolute train wreck. Give me another fade.
We already kind of talked about Mike Evans, but Mike Evans is another guy that is just, I don't know what it is about it. I think it's the offense. We kind of saw the reason I don't like Mike Evans this year is we saw what it looked like last season when it was a terrible offense. And Mike Evans was like legitimately bad last year. Like for fantasy, at least. He was legitimately bad when it was Tom Brady and the offense was terrible. And he kind of has to thrive in that high scoring, like deep, like even with Jameis, like the team wasn't good, but Jameis was chucking it and it didn't matter because it was great for fantasy. Like he had 30 touchdowns, but he also had 30 interceptions. Like we don't care about that in terms of like real NFL. It was great for fantasy, so that's why it worked. But last season we saw it didn't work when the offense wasn't as bad. Tom Brady's literally it's 2 yard into Chris Godwin, which is what I think Baker Mayfield does. Like I'm not saying Baker Mayfield's Tom Brady, but I think they're similar in that play style where they're not known as like these, especially like right now they're not known as these gunslingers. Where that's where Mike Evans excels. Mike Evans doesn't excel on these quick like in breaking routes. He excels down the field, aggressive catches, and I don't think that's something that Baker Mayfield is necessarily like good at anymore. I don't know if he's ever been good at that in his career. Maybe at Oklahoma, but I don't know. So I'm not really in on Mike Evans. I like Chris Godwin more. I'll draft Godwin a little bit, but I know he's got the 1,000-yard like consecutive seasons things that he kind of wants to keep going, but he might get 1,000 this year. It might be close, but outside of week 17 last year, Mike Evans did nothing for you in fantasy.
And you're still having to use a top 65 pick to get Mike Evans. So you're not necessarily, it's not like a freebie at the end where you're like, you know what? Because Tyler Lockett is a similar player in terms of like someone who's perennially undervalued. And he doesn't have the red flags and the downgrade at quarterback like Mike Evans. And they're going pretty much back to back. And in this situation, I would much rather give me that Tyler Lockett and give me a Geno Smith late to stack it up. And then I'm okay with that for sure because I believe in Lockett's talent. But you're saying here, if I had to say, the side note, bet. We're going to make a little side bet. Does he or does he not, Mike Evans,
okay, let's
go over 1K?
I would say yes. I think he might, just because I think it's especially since it's 17 games or they play now. It's 17 games. They're probably just going to feed the ball. If he's probably going to have like like 700 or 800 with like 3 weeks left. Like, okay, we got to get this guy to 1K because I think he breaks the record for like consecutive 1K seasons if he gets it this season. I think I could be wrong on that, but I think I saw something about that on Twitter today. So I think I think there might be like a little campaign to get him to 1,000. Me and Jason, your trade god buddy, we drafted him on a best ball mania team. We drafted Godwin, Rashad White, Evans, and Trask just for a Tampa Bay stack.
I remember that. The Trask.
Yeah. So
the Trask to stack. I mean, listen, if you're looking for some variance, you're looking for something to be a little different to differentiate that team, that build. Kyle Trask, give me all the money if he brings it in. Okay. So you're saying he goes over 1,000. So even at pick 65, it's not a terrible pick because if he goes over 1,000 and then hovers, the dude always scores a ton of touchdowns. So let's just say he just repeats last year, 6 touchdowns, 1,000 yards. We're looking at a potential, top 18 receiver on the season. And in best ball, you're going to get all those spike weeks. So maybe you secretly would or should draft a little bit more Mike Evans here, Tyler.
You know what? I want to push back on that and say I don't because I just don't want him on my team.
I'm going to stop you right there.
You got to take away 3 touchdowns from week 17. Those don't count. Those don't count in my projection.
That's a fair point, but hey, they certainly would count if they help you get the buckaroonies, especially if Kyle Trask is getting is throwing them. All of a sudden, you and Jason with a whole bunch of money.
If he happens to win me $3 million and I see him in Vegas, like I'll be like, hey buddy, here's 20 grand and throw it on whatever color you want, and we'll call it even.
Have you ever seen Dumb and Dumber?
I haven't. No, I need to.
You definitely do. It's one of the funniest movies. But there's a part in there. He has all this money that they stumbled on, and he's just sitting at the top of the stairs going, there you go. And he's just peeling it off, giving it to all the members of the hotel. There you go. That's you if you win $3 million. Mike Evans walks by like, there you go. You can have a little bit, Mike Evans. Okay, so let's get into this next question. But before we do, I want to talk to you about something. You helped out build this world-famous draft kit for 2023, right?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, so sick. I mean, there was so much great work put into it. So many really, really good football minds, yourself included, were put into that. So before we get into this final question, let's listen to the Podfather as he talks about the draft kit, or the world-famous draft kit, I should say.
Hey, it's the Podfather of great news. The 2023 draft kit is live. It is world famous. Why? Because it is the best resource for winning fantasy football championships that exists. There are rankings and cheat sheets for every format you can imagine. We have projections both at the team level and the player level. And wherever you are, you can click on a player, open them up, and see in-depth written analysis about what to expect in fantasy football from that player this year. And then you can click on the team, and you can get even more in-depth analysis, all the drivers of fantasy production, both in a positive and negative direction for that team, including a signature trend. And the graphics are incredible. So these team insights, they give you the team-level projections, the vacated targets, the vacated areas, and that one dynamic for each team that you need to know when making decisions on draft day. And we added a bunch of features. I mean, individual cheat sheets for Theo and Billy and Dario. So you can take your favorite analyst and download their personal draft cheat sheet. And then in the commissioners section, also brand new this year, Memphis Young lays out everything you need to know to manage a league, do's, don'ts, tips, and what the more innovative fantasy commissioners are doing this year. That's presented by Trophy Smack. The whole package is presented by the Fantasy Football Players Championship, the FFPC, Ray Garvin, Derek Brown, the best minds in the industry contributing analysis. It's certainly not the most inexpensive draft kit on the market, but it is the best. PlayerProfiler.com/draft kit. PlayerProfiler.com/draft kit. Go get it.
Go get that dang draft kit. And if you want the all-in package, which includes the draft kit, use the promo code Matty. Tyler, last question on the show sheet that I got to ask you. What players are being called sleepers by members of the community? We're not going to call out names. Everyone has their sleepers. But which is the sleeper that we all have heard that you just simply do not agree with? I don't care. You're saying to yourself, I don't care if the community is high on this guy. I'm still fading his ass.
One guy, so when I saw the question, I was really trying to think about it. And the problem with being an ADP drafter is you kind of like everybody. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you'll kind of take anybody if you got the stack going. But there's one guy specifically that's getting a lot of hype, and I just personally don't see it. It's not saying I will never draft him, but I tend to stay away because I like the other players better, is Christian Watson.
Whoa, Christian Watson.
You look at his raw stats from last season, and they're really good. He had that stretch where he's just scoring touchdowns after touchdowns after touchdowns, but he wasn't getting this volume that I want to see from a guy that I'm going to spend. I think he's going like the fourth round or the fifth round or kind of in that range. And he scored a lot of touchdowns, but he would have like 2 catches, or 4 catches, and 2 of them would have been touchdowns. He's incredibly, incredibly efficient. And I think he's going to come back down to earth a little bit this season, especially. I don't know. It's just something about Christian Watson. I know that there's the spike weeks, which is why everybody in Underdog loves him. And I think everybody just in general loves Christian Watson. But I kind of want to let me see it kind of get all put together first before I start making these crazy claims that Christian Watson. I think Alan says that, isn't Disney say Christian Watson belongs in that Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave tier? I do the quotes for Sonic Truth, so I know I'm pretty sure he said it. And I don't agree with it. So.
Alan Soslowski, shout out to him. He loves Christian Watson. A lot of people love Christian Watson. And I wouldn't say he's a sleeper per se by members of the community, but he's definitely being hyped by some very prominent members in the community. Alan for sure is one of them. And you're saying you're not touching him. You're not going after Mr. Watson. I mean, he does come at a pretty hefty price tag. You're having to take him, within the top 40 picks. His current ADP is right around pick 40. So you got to use that DC to take him, and he's going above players let me ask you this then. I'm going to go through the players in this range, and you could tell me whether you'd route Christian Watson or this player, DeAndre Hopkins.
He's just a better player than Christian Watson. So I don't know where he's going to go yet, but it's probably going to be somewhere where he's going to be used. So give me Hopkins.
Mike Williams.
I'll take Christian Watson on that one.
Of course, nobody likes Mike Williams. Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, Jerry Jeudy. I love Jerry Jeudy.
Okay. So Keenan Allen.
Jerry Jeudy. Keenan Allen. Yep. Give me Keenan Allen. When he plays, he's really good.
He is great.
DJ Moore's tough. I've sneakily come to like DJ Moore because everybody hates DJ Moore, which is kind of why I like him.
You're talking to the number one fan of DJ Moore right here, friend.
Yeah, I think DJ Moore's a better receiver than Christian Watson right now. And I think, is it crazy to say their offenses are very similar? I'll take DJ Moore.
Yeah, baby. All right, so you are a full-fledged fan of Christian Watson. That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I have Christian Watson in a few spots. I do have some exposure to him because I do want those spike weeks, and I do believe in the talent. It's funny because last year he was a sleeper. This year he is a favorite. People are in love with Christian Watson, and I am in love with this episode. Tyler, you absolutely killed it. But before we get out of here, make sure the people know where they can find you on socials and when they can get all your content.
Yeah, on Twitter at PPR Tyler. I can't believe I feel like I'm the first one to actually put PPR in there. Everyone puts FF for fantasy football. I can't believe I was the first one to do PPR. I feel like it's such a low-hanging fruit, and I have never seen anyone else do it. So at PPR Tyler on Twitter. If you're wondering what kind of content I put over there, it's one of 3 things. It's fantasy football, it's memes about just regular football, or it's Timberwolves content. If you're a real big fan of the Minnesota Timberwolves, go follow me on Twitter. It's going to be a fun off season. # Wolves back. Let's go, baby.
Okay. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Matty Kiwoom. And that is a wrap here on the game plan. Make sure to like this video. Make sure to subscribe to the Player Profiler YouTube channel if you're not already. Leave a comment. Help your boys out. Go ahead and check out everything that Player Profiler is doling out because we got a ton coming and we only getting started. If you can't get enough of me, you can also find me on Patreon. I'm at patreon.com/theexecutives. That's me and Cody Carpentier. So check that out and make sure you're in the Discord. We're talking fantasy football 24/7 in that Discord. So get your butt in that Discord. We're talking football like crazy. It's just I can't get enough of it. It's the best. So keep game planning, my friends, and I'll talk to you next week. Peace.
Hey, you like that video? Be sure to subscribe and activate those alerts so you get notified as soon as new videos drop. And be sure to check out PlayerProfiler.com. We have all the tools for you to dominate every type of fantasy league. We have a draft kit, Dynasty Deluxe, data analysis, DFS Dominator, and don't forget the player rankings to rule them all.